also as teaching students at Worcester State University, especially those in the post-baccalaureate and graduate studies. So we always can learn, we always improve. And I always tell people that improvement is the biggest room in the house. And so in this way, basically embracing diversity and inclusion in the education community through a cultural humility paradigm. And I know that you are aware of cultural competence, cultural awareness, cultural relevance, and so forth for different types of paradigms. But this concept, it's it's new, old and new. It's really came out into fruition back in 1991 through the Rodney King incident in Los Angeles, where he was a victim of police brutality. And it was really upheaval in that community. And pioneers, Melody Trevelyan and Jen Garcia, and it started basically at a healthcare institution, hospital. They was doctors, in the hospital, psychologists and what have you, and to bring some type of calm into the city, they coined the phrase cultural humility. And I didn't invent this. It came across me with the circles that I fellowship with. And like I tell people, and I want you to know, students that's in the class, Laura, Jennifer, Mark, what have you, I'm not the smartest cookie, you know, around, but you better bet your bottom dollar I'm in the jar with the smartest cookies. And that's what you need to do. Because if you're the smartest person in your group, I'm here to tell you, your group is in trouble. And that's going to hang around Dr. Lewis and other personalities that I can glean from. And like I say, I have graduate studies. I've after high school, I matriculated through 7 schools after high school in very different areas and what have you. So, but I'm yet learning. So I'm not an expert on this. So get that out your mind. You're not speaking to an expert. You're talking to a person that's sharing basically what I've learned from others, a conglomerate of associates. And as I've said, and what I've been doing my doctoral work, that if I see further, it's only because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. So I just want to let you know that I've been knowing Dr. Lewis for over 20 years, and it's just been a privilege. So let me just go on and just look at this. And when you deal with cultural humility, it's an educational leader's optimal tools of increasing the resources, the same time of the atmosphere, of increasing the level of one's understanding, and it affects from the custodian, the lunchroom staff, the teacher, instruction aides, teachers, principals, and up to the superintendent. It reaches to their level. It goes from every individual that we can learn from this type of paradigm. And one thing about it, I asked a question, and I want you to just look at this. Just if let me just read it so you can have an understanding. And I want you to answer this question: who am I? And it's a question that you can answer. It's no right or wrong answer, but we're going to look at this because it's really give you a foundation of what cultural humility is all about. It said, I am easily managed. You must merely be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done. After a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am the servant of all great people, alas, of all failures as well. Those who are successful, I have made successful. Those who are failures, I have made failures. I am not a machine, but I work with all the precision of a machine, plus the intelligence of a person. Now you may run me for profit, or you may run me for room. It makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will lay the world at your feet. Be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? This little puzzle here. Uh, who do you think it is? And you can unmute yourself and just talk back to me. You know, as Dr. Lewis said, I am in ministry, and in my tradition, we like to have a call and respond. Don't let me teach or preach by myself. I need your participating in this here lesson, that you could be a part of it. So if you think, well, just unmute yourself and just tell me what you think. Who am I? Who is this little how would I say riddle is talking about? It's like it's a riddle. And just and look, and one thing about I found out in teaching, so many students are afraid to answer because they feel they're gonna get the wrong answer. Now, if you have not made mistakes in life, then believe me, that's the greatest mistake at all. And all teachers and students scared to raise their hand because they're gonna get the wrong answer. It's good that you get the wrong answer because this is where you learn. So just talk back to me. I see Jennifer. What do you think, Jennifer? I'm gonna call on people. You know, I'm a teacher now. I'm a teacher at heart.
Well, I know the answer to this because I've been given this riddle before. So
okay.
I did want to jump in.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. I appreciate that. You know how happy I am that you insert that knowledge to me. We want others that probably never saw this riddle. Can they know who they Laura, can you mute yourself? Have you seen this riddle before?
I have not, no.
You have not. What do you think? Just take, you know, this is not the GRE. You know, this is not the SAT. You ain't got to worry about. We're not going to take you and put you for a firing squad. What do you think this riddle is all about?
I don't know. I guess my guess would be like me, like myself. I'm not sure.
Well, that's a good start. That's a good start. You in the ballpark. You're in the ballpark. Now someone can take it. Who can piggyback? Who can just to see it?
I've never seen it, so I'm a learner here too. But
okay,
I'm wondering if it's Father Time. If it's time.
Okay. Hey, look, it's about it. It's about it's still all in that there area. Mark, what do you think? Come on, jump into the water. It's right. It's right. Nice.
I thought you were just talking about. Sorry, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can see you too.
I thought you were talking about a student or a learner.
Pretty good. I'm not a person. Okay. All right, Jennifer, bring it in. You're gonna be my assistant in this here equation.
Sure. So the answer is a habit.
Say it loud, daughter. Say it loud.
A habit.
Now, explain to them what it means by that, a habit.
So when you think about how we all have, you know, good habits, we all have bad habits. And I think about like, especially the part where it talks about like after a few lessons. I mean, habits in general, you know, you can, you know, there's good from a habit and there's also bad from a habit. It can make you successful or something that can make you a failure. I mean, there's so many different avenues you can go down with regard to having a habit, both good and bad. It can, like it says, it can run you for profit or it may run you for ruin. That is a fact when it comes to a habit.
Excellent. Excellent. And this is what psychologists say. Do something for 28 to 30 days continuously, it will automatically become habitually a habit. What you did this morning when you got out of bed, you've been doing that. Now I'm not going to tell, I may just talk about me. I'm 69 years old. So, and for the last 11,000 years, I've been doing the same routine when I get up. Either I brush my teeth, take a shower, blah, 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 drink my coffee. And then when I was working at Darby, you take the same route. And I know Dr. Lewis take the same route to come to Worcester because I saw him for 20 some odd years passing Darby day after day, you know, so it's a habit. And so that will understand the culture of humility. We have blind spots. We got bias. We got our prejudice. And sometimes we are implicit and sometimes unconscious because we do things out of habit. We teach the way we was taught. So that's what we understand about cultural humility. Any questions? Dr. Lewis?
Oh, I'm actually writing down the quote because who knows, my student may get it as a multiple choice.
Very good, Doc. Very good, Doc. And I want you to know, keep that in mind. You know, I always tell people, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts become your words. Watch your words become your attitude. Watch your attitude become your habit. Your habit becomes your character, and your character becomes your destiny. So we got to watch habit, and you overcome bad habits by replacing them with good habits. Okay, I'm habit. And so building and sustaining vision. And as an educator, and I believe all of us go into education to make a positive difference in the lives of children. So building and sustaining an institutional vision of what we want to see in the outcome of what we do. And leaders might have two types of vision. One of the vision of the institution, the roles that they play in those institutions. And notice that every school, every district, and every building or local building, that school building in that district has a different culture, has a different tenets based upon the culture of the school. I taught at Doherty, been assistant principal at Doherty, but the culture at Doherty was different from the culture at Worcester Technical High School, or North or South, or what have you. So therefore, we got to understand the vision of the institution where we serve. And the culture is larger and more forceful, though invisible, than the individual. And another vision is how that change the process, how it be perceived. The purpose of this presentation is to share the concept of embracing a cultural humility paradigm to help educational institutions become more effective in cross-cultural situation and communication. And this is what this paradigm is really something about, to look at it. And diversity. Diversity is something, you know, some people think that diversity inclusion is black and white, or dealing with different ethnicities. But diversity is dealing with ageism, is dealing with ableism, is dealing with people with different types of health issues and what have you. It is a conglomerate of everything. In diversity, you can count, you know, how many, just like in this presentation, how many males is in the presentation, how many female, what's ethnicity, what is there basically through, if you talk about their origin or nativity of where they was born, you can find that there is difference. So diversity is different, and we can count that as qualitative. You know, quantitative is numbers. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 3 women, 4 men, boys, girl, what they if they are Native Americans, or the Africans, or what have you. All those things you can put your hands on. It's quantitative and what have you. But the thing about inclusion is another thing. And to me, sometimes inclusion get lost in the source of diversity. I'm gonna repeat that because I like saying that. Inclusion, and most often than not, get lost in the source of diversity. You know, you got a seat at the table. And I've heard someone say, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're probably on the menu. But I'm saying that inclusion, it consists of not only having a seat at the table, but having a voice that is valued. It's having a voice that others can really cherish what you are saying. And most often than not, the voice of people that have basically disabilities, the LGBT community, other minority groups, sometimes their voice is silent. And I believe, I think Langston Hughes, when he wrote The Invisible Man, and sometime being of a minority, and not just being Black, but just being the LGBTQ community, or somebody in the wheelchair, or somebody's blind, having a disability, a handicap, those people are on the marginalized of American society, and they are somewhat seen to be invisible. Sometimes when you're in a wheelchair, you know, everybody looking at you, you got to look down at you. And the only one that really kind of respect you are children, because sometimes you're on the same level with them physically. So therefore, inclusion, it is basically having not only a seat at the table, but having viable input, and is celebrated, not tolerated. And the reason why I'm doing this presentation and doing it for free, because Dr. Lewis celebrate me. I charge between $1,500 and $2,500 for a 90-minute presentation. I'm giving you a short version, but I'm doing it because that Dr. Lewis celebrate me, and I have a relationship with him, and it is a genuine, profound, and intimate relationship. So I'm just telling you. So inclusion, you're welcome. The atmosphere is conducive, where it's a win-win situation from all parties that's involved. That's inclusion. That's inclusion. And then, I mean, I don't know about you, I don't know about in your house, but in my house, my wife is included. Even though my wife had been working for me as a church administrator for over 20 years, and she do things in the house. She don't work outside, but she have a voice at the table. And I'm the one that bring the bacon home. And then, but she has a say so. She is the chief financial officer of Reese's Pieces Enterprise. She gives me allowance because she give me $100 a week, you know, and not that I'm, taking anything from me, but she have a voice at the table. And how long would you stay with someone that you didn't have a voice of value in the relationship? Hello, somebody. So that's what inclusion is all about. Let me go on, because I can just go on. So if you are a great leader for inclusion, you have figured out how to embrace and galvanize diversity of voices and identities of each individual, and looking at that distinct uniqueness that they have, that they bring to the table. Any questions? No, that's my version of it. Okay. And so therefore, why use the term cultural humility? Why we use that term? Why do we use the term cultural humility and we're not using cultural awareness, cultural competence, cultural relevance, and what have you? Anyone can just think about what I've said so far. What do you think, or why do you think we use the term cultural humility? Anyone? Let's look and see. Okay, and this concept, as I said, this terminology was coined by Madeline Trevelyan and Jane Murray Garcia in 1998, but it came out of the aftermath of Rodney King's brutal police brutality, and it's to describe a way of infiltrating, multiculturalism into the work of the healthcare professions. And what happened is that it was, you could go online and look at some of these clips, videos of them talking about it. And we don't have time to come out and do it. Usually, if it's a 90-minute, I'll go over about a 5-minute, 10-minute presentation where they are talking about how it came to be involved or intertwined into the healthcare. Because they was all at that time, they were teaching cultural competence. And cultural competence saying that you competent about, you know, different ethnicities, a different race of people, what have you. And there was an incident in a hospital where there was a Latino patient, and she wanted more pain medicine, and there was a African woman, African American nurse, that was telling them, well, based upon my study of cultural competence, I know that this group of people will demand more pain medicine than other ethnicities, so we're not going to give it to her. And then there was a doctor that was of Latinx, and he came in and speaking Spanish with the woman, and she was telling him, I'm hurting, I really need it. And so the doctor told the nurse, give her some pain medicine. And she disputing with the doctor because she felt like she took a one course, three credit course in cultural competence, and she felt like she was competent in cultural competence about other different people, ethnicity and background and culture. And that is ludicrous. You can't paint every person in the African American community with a broad brush. I can't paint every woman of European descent in a broad brush. You can't do that. So we don't use competent because nobody's competent, because we always evolving, becoming new and reinventing ourselves. I'm not the person that Dr. Lewis met 20 years ago. I'm not the person he met maybe 5 years ago. I'm not the person he met even last year, because I'm always evolving into really discovering new about myself. So therefore, no one can have confidence or I'm aware of this here. I have awareness. For real, it's like somebody looking at the world and somebody opens up the door and he see a broader part of the world. Now you can see the larger part of the atmosphere. And someone tell them, you thought you saw the world, but all you were doing was looking out of a keyhole, and you thought you saw the universe. And so therefore, cultural humility is replacing the idea of cultural competency, cultural awareness, and what have you, because cultural humility is based on the idea of focusing upon self-reflection and lifelong learning. In other words, cultural humility is saying not that I think less of myself, but I think less about myself. And I think about others more, even higher than myself. And that is a job that you got to work on yourself. That is a job of being humble, to understand that I am a student. Just like I told you in this presentation, I'm not the expert. I'm a student. I'm yet learning. I'll never forget my granddaughter was telling me, Poppy, do you know that all owls are not nocturnal? And she was, I think, in the 3rd grade. And I'm telling her, what you talking about? All owls are nocturnal. She said, no, Poppy. So she said, Poppy, take out your phone. So she said, Siri, are all owls nocturnal? And Siri said, no, some is from dawn to dusk. She said, I told you, Poppy, I'm smarter than you. She's 3rd grade. I got a doctorate, master's, CAGS, bachelor, and everything, associate. But you can learn from everyone. And that's what humility is. You don't go in there and think you're the guru. And they act like this. This is the way they act. We got to deal with people individually. So that's why cultural humility is such a strong and powerful paradigm in the education community, in the health community, because with COVID, we saw the disparity of health disparity that have been the curtain rolled back, and we just see the devastation of it. But we got to understand that's why we use the term cultural humility. And the rationale of it itself, the reason. So it's focused upon the client is the expert. The student is the expert, teachers. You may have, expert knowledge in your particular discipline, your curriculum, but let me tell you something. In my 35 plus years of just being a teacher in public schools, and not counting the years that I've been in the higher academia in the Worcester State University, that those little puppies can read that math book, can read you better than they can read that math book. They can read you better than they can read that world language book or whatever you come in the class with. Those little puppies can read you, especially those of marginalized community. So you got to look at the student and the parents as the experts. But you think you know it all, And I've been a first year teacher. And when I got in that class after finishing my bachelor, when I first started, I started teaching high school. So I'm going in the classroom. I had algebra class. I was in New York City. I had 2 algebra class, and I had geometry, and I had algebra 2. So I had juniors and seniors, what have you. And I walked in the classroom, and believe me, I was just a page ahead of the students, and I'm sitting there, and my God. And then it took me about, when I got my first evaluation, I looked like, man, I said, my God, this must, principal telling me, Mr. Reach, you did this and you could improve this here, because New York City, they give you a written evaluations, the narrative, man. Oh my God, what you have you do now? It's timing you, your exit and everything, your introduction and your body. Oh my God. And it took me about 3 or 4 years to really look in retrospect how bad I was my first 2-3 years of teaching. I'm just telling you the truth. And so, but it's a point of learning that the students, the parents, they are the expert. And then the learning to engage in self-reflection about yourself and the cultural elements of what the student bring into the classroom. And let me tell you, and you should be wanting to learn from even the students and the parents. And as I say, if you really want to know about a child, we have parents on this line. You ask the parent. You ask the parents. So therefore, the 3 factors of dealing with the cultural humility, the journey towards cultural humility. And then first, we need to be a lifelong commitment of self-evaluation and self-critique about ourselves. To know thyself, to be true to thyself, is to know yourself. But the hardest thing to do is be truthful with ourselves. And it's like an oxymoron, constructive criticism. I don't care what nobody say. I don't care how they put a sandwich together. No one's like to be criticized, constructed, or what. And I don't know why they call it constructive, because every time someone criticized me, I got to brace myself with humility to really accept it, because nobody likes to be criticized. And nobody like to even take self-evaluation themselves, because sometimes it's hard to see yourself. So you need somebody like my wife would get around me sometime. I'm a pastor sometime, and we in the car driving, and she turn around and give me a Tic Tac or give me some peppermint. I'm glad she does. I'm not embarrassed that much, but after about going on 30 years, it's like it was just, hey, she there one, because she can see me with her clarity better than I can see myself, unless I'm looking into the mirror. So you need to understand that you need to take self-evaluation. And this is what I tell people in the classroom, Dr. Lewis. It's in my book also. It's impossible to know what you don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And I'm not afraid to say, I don't know. I don't know. 3 words of a wise person. And then, it's impossible to teach an individual who believe or think she or he already know. I know that. I know that, I know that. Oh, I think I know that. that person is really hard to really learn something because they are not open, because they want to finish everybody's sentence. They think I get all the answers. And we realize that they, one author even calls them as being anti-intelligent. So therefore, it's, you can't teach them. And what you know, and can no one take that from you. This done with humility. All I'm trying to tell you, this is humility. And the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And people say, well, doc, you know, like I've been through a lot of school, but what I know, compared to what I don't know, books I haven't read. I mean, songs I never heard, food I never ate, place I never been, people I never met can create another universe. So what I know compared to what I don't know is like a gnat urine in the Pacific Ocean. Who's going to take a qualitative value of what a gnat urine in the Pacific Ocean with? So therefore, we got to be humility and say, I'm here to learn. I'm not an expert. That student comes. They are the expert. We are the practitioners, and we have specific knowledge, but they have a range of knowledge about themselves, and we have to respect that. That's cultural humility. If you got your PhD, from Yale, or your GED from jail, you don't have all infinite knowledge and infinite wisdom. We're not wired like that. Second, and this is what I love about this one, the second feature of cultural humility, it's designed to fix power imbalances where none ought to exist. And what I'm saying about that is that in a perfect world of a ideal world, there wouldn't be races, there wouldn't be bias, there wouldn't be hatred and what have you. There wouldn't be difference. It's like I was taking a course in ethics, in theology, and the professor, and this was over 40 plus years ago, I can hear, the church is a place where difference makes no difference, but yet in practicality, they are difference. So therefore, cultural humility in any type of institution, any type of corporation, any type of company, what have you, home, is that cultural humility fix the powers of imbalance that's out of kill. But it ought not to be anywhere, but it brings it back. It's the glue that holds it. It puts it, it bands the whole balance, that everyone come and everyone is respected. Everyone is celebrated. Everyone is bringing their unique qualities and talent to the party to make it a great celebration. So the educator, you as a teacher, you hold a body of knowledge that the parents and the student does not. Like I tell people when I teach the graduate class, how many parents other than teachers is in this classroom taking this lesson? Parents is not in just regular parents. That's not teachers is taking the SIG class, Education 929. They're not taking different types of structure, curriculum, and design. They're not taking different types of pedagogy. They're not doing that. You are doing that. So therefore, you have somewhat of understanding. So you as a teacher, out of the element of educating students between bureaucracy, between the principal, the student, the teacher, and the government, you are the most single influential element in the equation of educating students, because you are there learning how to do pedagogy and understanding best practice. So you have that specific knowledge. But however, the parents and the students also has understanding and knowledge outside the scope of the educator, and that's knowing about themselves and their culture in which they live, in the neighborhood in which they survive in. So therefore, so all these things, the educator, and cultural humility It's again three. It is developing a partnership with the students, and a partnership with the parents, and a partnership with the community. You know, with that come they advocates for others. You know, cultural humility by definition is larger than the individual self. You know, we must advocate for a system systematically in every aspect of advocate with the community. So cultural humility is dealing with school, parents, students, and community. As we talk, a learning community, it's a conglomerate. It's not just in the four walls, it's in the larger community. You know, and wherever I taught at, I lived that. I taught in North Carolina. I lived in North Carolina, and I lived in the area. I taught in the Bronx. I lived in the Bronx. I taught in Springfield. I live in Springfield. I taught in Doherty, and I live 1.5 miles from Doherty. I'm playing handball with the students. I'm playing basketball with them. You know, after I got 60, I hung up my sneakers and everything because the ball got faster and like the wall got long, and then I need an oxygen tank on one end of the floor. So my wife said, "Give it up, son." So I took the advice of a wise woman. But in my 20s and 30s, 40s, 50s, I was pretty good at it. But it is so we understand as educators, we have a responsibility to recognize and value the diversity of the parents and the students. And then again, habit. We have to check our bias. We have to check our prejudice. We got to check and look and see if our blind spots, that we can look at the children as though they are our very own. Whatever they're, black, white, yellow, red, whatever, we have to come at that environment and say we are here to learn one from another and to value and to respect one for another. So those are the things that we need to do in understanding. And again, as educators, we have a responsibility to recognize and value the diversity, the difference, cultural background of the parents. And somebody said, "How do I learn that?" You ask the question. There was one incident that the teacher, English teacher, would mark the paper red marking on the students' paper, and they would bring it home, and the whole family would just go berserk. They would just, oh my God, they just didn't understand what it was. It was detrimental. But then someone of the Korean ethnicity told them that when you put red markings on paper, it represents death. I'm just telling you, it's just that you have to learn. And then we try to reach home with other people, with the immigrants that's coming in that don't speak the language. We have to be sympathetic. We have to, well, I can't learn every language. You know, I can't do all this here. How am I learn? I got 20 kids, and I got 2 from here, 1 from Albania, 1 from Africa, 1 from this here. How am I learn? It's doing the best and learning from them and learning. And then in the greatest equalizer is humility. It's humility. You know, get down off your high horse and come down and be empathetic. You might can't be sympathetic because you're not in it, but being empathetic and to try and say what we do. I never forget, I was in Germany, Dr. Lewis, a few years ago. I was preaching in Germany. I was in Italy and what have you. And oh my God, I got in Germany, and the host I was with took me to a restaurant. I couldn't even order anything from the menu because I didn't know German. Here I am with doctor degree, doctor of education, and I'm sitting up there, and they had to come in here and look at the menu and order. And then they said, "Well, Dr. Reese, we just gonna learn. We gonna go to Mickey D's." So the next day for lunch, we went to McDonald's. I said, "Oh, I got this. Oh, I got this. I got this." But guess what, Dr. Lewis? I didn't know how to count from 1 to 10 in German, so I couldn't even order, give me a number 4. And so they had to order my lunch for me, and that's made me so humble. Oh my God, here I am, and I was teaching at the school anyway, teaching education courses, assistant principal, and oh my God, did that bring a humbleness within me? So when I got back to Darty, it gave me a greater sense of dealing with immigrants and English language learners. I'm just telling you, and that's what humility is about. And people can feel your love. People can feel the energy that you have. And that's what it's all about. Make me feel celebrated. And then we look at this, we must enter therapeutic. You know what I'm saying? And people say, do we have to do all this? Do I have to serve as a social worker? Do I have to serve as a mediator? Yes, you have to be that, because it's building long-lasting, authentic relationship. And the key to cultural humility is authentic relationship. And let me tell you, if you don't already know, which I believe you know, those little children can smell a phony a mile away. They know when you're plastic and they know when you're real. They know when you like them and they know when you don't. They know when you love them and they know when you don't. So therefore, acknowledging that we always, and this, I love this here about cultural humility, it's in the process of learning and growing. You either dying or you're growing. You either learning or you're not. And then I think one educator was saying the only person that know how to learn is the one that know willing how to put what they learn into action. And this is what it is. And it's just, again, we're talking about learning. And anybody that know me, I am a lifelong learner. And I don't, in my church, they don't let me sing. They don't let me play any instrument. All they want me to do, say, Pastor, just teach and preach. Don't do nothing else. Those are the only things I do at the church. I don't count the money. I don't pay no bill. I don't do anything because I know my place. And when you know your place, you always will have a place. And when you get out of place and out of your lane, you cause chaos. And it takes more energy to fix the problem that you cause because you're out of your lane and out of your place. Anyone want to add up? I've been talking so much. Any questions so far?
Dr. Reese, just I recognize that many individuals think that because people of color speak about cultural humility is because they know how to handle every situation. And I think what it really tells us, cultural humility, is that we also have to be aware that there are circumstances that we'll find ourselves in that we sometimes don't know exactly how to act.
That's
and we have to be taught.
Exactly.
And cultural humility is not just whites and understanding Blacks and Hispanics.
No.
It's about Blacks and Hispanics trying to understand white culture as well.
Exactly. You're right. It's just like here we had the Black nurse. Before she knew everything about this Latinx, this woman, because she took a course in cultural competence. And then cultural humility said, well, I have to learn more about her on individual basis. It's not just whites learning about Blacks or Latino. It's everybody coming to the table with, I'm open to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can learn something is through effective communication. And someone said that communication is like oxygen to healthy relationships. It's a dialogue. It's not a monologue. I'm married to my wife, but, and she ain't the first girlfriend I had. So I'm not going to go in here and take her out. I like fish, But until I said, do you like fish, sweetheart? You know, maybe she could have a allergic reaction to fish. I have to hear her side. I have to communicate. In marriage, in institutions, anything, it needs communication. And that's what cultural humility is open up the channels of information and saying, I don't know everything. I'm here to learn about you. And the only way I can learn about that, we have to open up a channel of effective communication. And that's in every ethnicity. And then here we look at cultural humility teachers, and this is, again, teachers see difference, see teachers see difference of students of every ethnicity, every background, social has the access to the learning process. They create caring communities, and that goes from all walks of life. This is building cross-sectional communication of other people that's in the classroom. Again, building an effective learning community where individual and cultural heritage, including language, are expressed and valued. So it's, and I just don't want people to think that diversity inclusion is just a black and white issue. It's not. It's a human issue, and everyone bring a distinctive value to the table. And they are cultural, individual knowledge about the students. So the teacher bring their culture, their learning to the classroom, and the student bring their culture and their knowledge into the classroom. And each one of us want to leave out that classroom with more knowledge, understanding about one another than we enter in. And the purpose of this presentation, I hope that even myself would leave out of this presentation with more knowledge than I came in. And Jennifer, you made that happen to me. And all of my doing this, and I've been doing this here, corporate America, colleges, churches. You're the first person that said, I've seen this here riddle before. It just blew my mind. And I was just so elated, man. I've been happy as a cat meow that someone saw this before. So those are things that we need to do. And then therefore, we can understand that the culture, that the challenge of stereotypes and intolerance, we have to understand. So therefore, the families, the community, design the structure strategy that build upon the link of home, school, and community. And then see, again, the challenge of stereotype and intolerance. And again, it goes back to habit, implicit bias, unconscious bias. We have to be aware of those things. We have to challenge it. And then again, they serve as change agents. So you, with a cultural humility paradigm, you become the changer. And then that is one, I think, I don't know, if Mark Twain was saying, that change that you want to see in the world, let it first be exhibited through you. You be the change. You be the change. And the biggest person to change is yourself. We are our biggest problem. We are our worst enemy. You know? So therefore, in other words, so therefore by thinking and acting clearly to address inequalities distinguished by, but not limited to, race, language, social, economic, family structure, and gender. And most everything we hear in life, you know, we are creatures of habits, as I said. And we are what we heard in our home, through our parents, our siblings, our immediate family, our friends, what we hear in our place of worship, synagogue, temple, churches, or any type of spirituality. We become that. We become that. And that's a we have to examine everything that we hear. We have to put it under the scope of humility and see, does it answer through the, in other words, the golden rule, basically for any type of culture, any type of religion. And for then the Judeo-Christian is do unto others as you have them do unto you. So we have to put that, how would this affect someone else? Or if this would happen to me, we have to take that into consideration. And then closing out, because I know you got other things to do. So the question is how to practice cultural humility. How to practice it. Because what I have given you basically is this a plethora of information. But why is there so little or no transformation or no modification or no change in all of the information that's available to us? And you as a teacher, how do you know when a student learned something? How do you know when they have advanced? Is that you give them a test to evaluate them, because anything that cannot be evaluated can never be measured. So therefore you measure through different types of means of evaluation. So therefore, how can I put this? And the missing link between knowledge and the wisdom to make the right use of knowledge is application. You have to apply it. You have to apply best practices. And don't get me wrong now, and I've been in education for over 40 plus years now, public schools 35. But what I find out that the hardest people to really take best practice and empirical data and scholarly information are teachers. How do I know? I've been there. I've been there for that many times. Oh, I've seen this before. It's just another package. It's in another ribbon, but it ain't gonna work. And sometimes educators are some of the most anti-intelligent communities in society. I'm saying that because I'm an educator. Oh, it's not gonna work. Can nobody teach me? And then even in every school building, every college building, every institution, they have resistant forces. You got people that riding with the flow, and you got resistant forces that say they just doomsayers and namesayers. It ain't gonna work. And some of them are very high key stakeholders in the institution. And so therefore, that's I'm telling you, in 35 years, Dr. Lewis, I can count the time I ever ate lunch in the teacher cafe, in the teacher's workroom. Because it was just so volatile, so negative. So therefore, you got to put it in practice, because if you do not put it in practice, nothing is going to be transformed in your life or the life of the student. So therefore, maintain a willingness to just empty out everything you know or thought you knew or think you knew about a person, ethnicity, background, culture, on generalization or stereotype about their culture. You got to empty yourself out. And that is hard to do. Especially, it's like this here. It's like somebody, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, they make a resolution. I'm a beast. I weigh 300 pounds. So I'm going to take a gym membership, go to the gym and exercise out for an hour and don't go back no more, expect I'm gonna lose some weight. It's not gonna happen. You gotta have a commitment to the commitment to make up your mind and change your way of thinking for it to happen. Simple as that. So how do I practice cultural humility? Recognize other people for their achievement, regardless of their diversity. People that with learning disability, people that with are handicapped. I mean, they are people, they are human. The LGBT community, they are people. And we're trying to be God, trying to judge people and this and that. Please, I have 6 months to mind my own business and 6 months to leave yours alone. I mean, it's a 24/7 just working on myself. If you don't believe me, ask my wife, ask my mama. Those two people will tell you the truth. So I'm just trying to tell you. So therefore, Praise other people. I read a book, Greatest Salesman in the World, and I read this book over 40 years. And Art Mandingo, he said, if you want your enemies to be your friends and your friends become your brother, when they do something extraordinary, go to the rooftop and shout their praise. People will do more for praise than money. And when they do something that is wrong, just bite your tongue and just keep it to yourself instead of expose them and being busybody and tattletales. They will become, your enemy become your friend, and your friend become your brother. So celebrate them. Celebrate them. In other words, for being at all and how hard they work, your co-workers work on the presentation to praise your co-workers and keep them, and people will do more for praise than even for financial reward. And as a leader, I would tell people, Dr. Lewis, you a leader, and you have took the hit from me so many times. When I make mistakes, you bite the bullet. You take it. When I do good, you call me in, say, Reese, you sure did good this time. So that's a leader. That's a leader. Because you can always look for I don't care how good a person is, you always can find the bad. But cultural humility paradigm is that everybody have a visible sign on their chest when they come into your classroom that's saying, Dr. Reese, say something nice about me. You can say 9 things good about an individual and 1 thing negative. They will leave out your presence with their head tucked between their tail with that 1 negative statement you made for them. And then to negate that 1 negative statement, it takes 17 positive touches to negate 1 negative statement. I'm just telling you. How do we do it? How do we do this? Help others succeed. Be a giver instead of a taker. Help them succeed. Few things attack the ego quite as much as helping others succeed. When you help others, you help yourself. Help people succeed. Let me tell you this here. I know we got time now, but I was in, they didn't have special ed classes when I come up. I was in some of the lowest level classes in elementary school. I barely passed the 6th grade. I had a 3rd grade reading score. In 6th grade, I went to ghetto unperforming schools in New York City. I lived in the ghetto. I come from a home with mother and father separated. Mother, 10 children. Both my mother and father had less than a 6th grade education. My mother couldn't read. My father couldn't read. He died illiterate. And my mother got a GED when she about 50 some odd years old. But then again, it was if I learned something, it was teachers. Community, my basketball coach, baseball coach, my pastors, they was my resiliency. They was my safety net. I never forget Miss Hoffman, my 7th grade teacher. Once I just barely made out of elementary school, the 6th grade, and I had her for a 7th grade. And that woman, Miss Hoffman, I'm not talking about 50, 11,000 ago. She made me feel so important. Sit up here, Bernard. You can do this. Oh my God. And from her class, from Miss Hoffman class, I went to 7-4. And then I had a teacher by name, what was her name? She taught me, Miss Young. She taught me how to type. And every time I get there and type now, I can type without looking, just with the keyboard, ASDF, she taught me. So in the 9th grade, I went to specialized classes, and then I got the award for the top typist in my junior high school. And my handball coach was the assistant principal, Mr. Sword. And when he called my name, listen to me, Dr. Lewis, he called my name for the highest outstanding award in typing, Bernice Reese. Man, you could have bought me for a penny and held back your hand for change. I looked so embarrassed. He said, excuse me, this is my handball player. This is Reese. I don't know where I got Bernie from, but it was so embarrassing. But Miss Young taught me how to, Bernard, I see your pinky out that carriage. Oh my God, teachers. So I'm just trying to tell you, if you know how to read, talk, we all owe it to a teacher. So help succeed. And that's why we go into this here profession. It is to help others succeed. And pride is come from destruction. It's hard knowledge and resources, but humility shares them. Anytime you hold things together, nothing goes into your hand. You could eat, I don't care what you eat, but in 5 hours, you have to relieve yourself. And if you don't relieve yourself from the food you eat, from the fluid you drink, you will self-destruct. You got to relieve it. And that's what I'm doing with this here presentation. I'm giving away information and knowledge. I'm sharing, but I will grab more than what I give. I will read more than what I'm sowing in this presentation. But pride is terrible. Pride, oh, I'm better than you. Oh, and then another thing, learn to admit your mistakes. If you have never made a mistake, then you have never did anything new and learned anything. And the biggest mistake you can ever make is not making a mistake at all. And nobody likes doing this, but the quicker you willing to say, I'm wrong, I don't know, the closer you are to humility. Culture humility. Embracing diversity, inclusion, and education through a cultural humility paradigm. I'm wrong. I don't know. I've been married close to 30 years. I learned the secret in marriage. Yeah, baby, I screwed up again. You're right. I tell people my marriage would be perfect if I wasn't it, because I'm a natural born screw up. If you don't believe me, ask my wife. So my marriage is great because I'm in it, but without me, it'd be perfect. Because when my wife, when she left the celestial glory, she didn't lose her halo nor break her wing. I'm fortunate. I'm telling you the truth. So 3, get information, get informed, become a lifelong learner. Sometimes we think we know more than we actually do. When it comes to racism, you cannot neglect the importance of being informed. It is being informed. You want to be informed to know. And then you need to become, again, an educated consumer. You need to understand basically how to learn. And then books you read, movies, in this presentation, what you hear is absolutely essential that we learn how to learn, and how our own implicit bias, getting back to who am I and where they came from. And most of all, we did not come out our mother womb prejudice, bias, and racism. It's something that we were taught by looking, observing, and children are the greatest imitators. In my church, you got little children trying to preach like me, shout like me, and you get to say, "Go ahead, Denim, shout like Poppy." He get to start shouting, "Shout like Mima." He start shouting like Mima. And then our language, sometimes we be speaking on the tongue and they be trying to do it. They are the greatest copycats in media. They don't listen to what you say. They listen and see what you do. So therefore, we have to imitate, emulate, and express the change we want to see in the world. And that's what we need to do. So how did it come by? What did we hear in our religious institute? What did we hear in our home? What are the jokes in the private of our own home, what we say? We have to understand that, and then again, we got to learn to speak up. We got to learn to speak up, stand up. One of the most painful things we can experience is people being silent around us while we are suffering. And Martin Luther King said that we don't hear the saying of our enemies as much as we hear the silence of our friends. So when we are silent, we perpetuate the evil. And when we don't say nothing, and to say nothing and be silent is be complicit to what is going on, because inequality anywhere is what? Inequality everywhere. Injustice is anywhere, is everywhere. We got to be, and the thing about it, we just don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to be ostracized. We don't want to be, the one that, they're a troublemaker. When you hear different types of jokes about different ethnicities, about different LGBT community, do you laugh with them? Or do you say, well, that's something that we don't do? So the first home In the first place where you can make a difference is in your own home. In your own home, in your own private community. When you hear things, I know a pastor was saying something about homophobia. I said, look, that's wrong. You got to stop it. I said, I'm a diversity professor, and I teach on diversity and inclusion, and that's just wrong. And whether he like it or not, sometimes you got to speak up. Maybe I can say it now because Dr. Lewis, I get a pension every month, and it lands, the Eagle land, it faithfully land. So I got that. And then I have a pastor, and the folks that come is volunteer, and they seem to like me, who I am, my authentic self. So I have a chance to speak up about others that's suffering. Said no matter the circumstances, it's never okay to look the other way when we see others being mistreated or abused. We must always confront and address racism, discrimination in any and all form every single time. Just the other day, where this here black man was beating up a Asian woman, kicking her on in New York, and people just standing there looking at him. I can't stand up for this. Look, if you're not willing to stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. And if you're not willing to die for a purpose and a cause, you ain't worth living. That's just me. That's just me. So you need to speak up, because silence perpetuate the evil. Commit to listening. Now, in this presentation, I did all the talking. And most likely, since I'm doing all the talking, I'm only repeating what I do know. If I just shut up and then let you say something, then the possibility I will leave here with something I did not know. So we got to be good listeners. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, but we run our mouth more than we listen. And then again, my bishop is a great listener, and I've been learning that. Listen to my wife, listen, just be quiet and listen. And I learned to repeat what they said to let them know I'm listening. People want to be heard. So one of the ways teachers can foster cultural humility in their classroom is to express interest in the ethnic background of students. Listen to what they have to say. Learn from them. And I'm telling you, and they can tell you more about themselves than you can know about them. So listen to them. They have something to tell you.
Dr. Reese, I know
Yes.
that there are some students, they have some appointments at 4.
Okay.
So just in case you see them stepping out.
No problem.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. And then analyze and celebrate difference in tradition, belief, and social background. We want to do that. We have to do that. And the 8th one, bring empathy to the classroom. Teaching with empathy is incredibly important. Feel what they feel, especially if you are trying to teach tolerance into the classroom according, to what you have read and learned. It is so important to empathize with your students. I've been there. I know that. Set high expectation. No child can ever rise above low expectation. See a child in the way they are, they only become worse. See a child what they become with nurture and authentic relationship, they only become better. So you set the bar. And the teacher, and there have been experiments in classes where a teacher thought that she was getting a honor class, and this was low-level class. But because the teacher didn't know that, she treated them like honor roll students. And believe me, guess what? The student rose to the occasion. It's expectation. So you got to learn to set the bar, the bar high. It's up to you. It's up to you. And then again, set high. And once you lay the foundation for your diverse classroom, make it clear that you have high expectations. And most children, again, people that marginalize, they want constructive structure in their life. And I'm telling you, and as being able to In my 13 years, Dr. Lewis, as a classroom teacher, a math teacher from North Carolina, New York, Springfield, and Worcester, I never had to write a teacher referral in 13 years. Never. Kids came in, they know to do now is routine. It was a habit. I set the habit. They knew they had to do this here, do now, or warm up in 5 minutes. We change papers. They do it. I have 4 or 3 students go to the board. They go over the board. They do it. It's no time, because most schools lose about a month of studying by not having a systematic routine plan of action in the classroom. They knew they had to, the way you give out the papers, they would do it. Then I said, all right, anybody had any homework, any problem with 1 to 5 homework? Who did it? Okay, Jody, you go to them. They explain to it. Anybody had problem from 6 to 10? No, you go ahead and do it, bro. Have a couple answers. Anybody have, the only time I used to do something, if nobody got the problem, and say, well, no, that's why I'm here. And then I said, look, everybody, since you get it, listen to me, blah, 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 blah. Then we go, I have the aim on the board, and we go over the aim, and then sometimes I'll list the aim through the do now and through the classwork, and then we go with the new material. Then we do the application, and then we have an exit slip, and they knew that. I would have kids running down the hall to get in my classroom, because if they were late in my classroom, they owe me that time after school. I'm just telling you, the expectation. And water cannot rise above its level. And kids want to be on. And then the last one is get involved. You know, when you disconnected from something, it's much easier to dismiss it. It don't involve you. You might scroll through a story that deal with people of color, what they, if what have you. And what we have just on Sunday, Dante Wright, they get killed by a police officer in Minnesota. Then some people, it don't say, but I'm a black male. I have 2 black sons. It calls my attention. But with empathetic, everyone needs to be involved, because it's a human being, it's a human life. And that's one of the reasons why racism continues to be so pervasive. Some people don't even recognize it. And so therefore, they just somehow or another dismiss it. So, but we have to be able to get involved, to speak up to the congressman, to our senator. Do we know? And I always say what Tip O'Neill would say, all politics is local. You know, who's on the school committee? Who's at the council? That's more important than who is the president of the United States. All politics is local. And then everybody get excited about the 4-year election, but they would get involved with the midterm election. And that's what's important. And we need to get involved. We need to be involved to make this world a better place. And one person can make a difference in the world. Just one person. Start a diversity committee at your school. Just get involved. Examine, analyze school practices that may harm or marginalize your students. You have a voice. You have a voice. You know, recognize ongoing sensitivity training for administrators and teachers. We have to do it. It's ongoing. You know, and even in my church, I'm a secretary, but I go to training every year to be certified in what I do as a jurisdictional secretary. Going up for bishop, I go to a class for that. You know, I constantly, and then re-certifying myself and demand action from local representatives and this thing. So we need to get involved. So here we say, and this is what I'm closing with this. If you want others to be happy, practice humility. If you want to be happy, practice humility. And this is what Horace Mann said. He was the first commissioner of education in the state of Massachusetts. He said, quote, "Be ashamed to die before you have won some small victory for humanity." Don't die until you have won some small victory for humanity. And this is what I say, I close with this. Just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. so there's hope for the future, and keep hope alive. And then as an exit slip, I'll just sit here, and the question, what did you know about cultural humility prior to participating in this workshop? That's an exit slip. Anyone? This is the last slide. You can unmute yourself and just tell me.
I didn't know anything about it at all. When you first mentioned it, I thought it was going to be completely different than what you explained about it too. I was not expected at all, the actual definition of it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I personally thought that cultural humility and cultural competency, I thought they were interchangeable, and now that I've learned that they're so different, so that's something I've learned.
Very good, very good. So it was like a aha moment, really. So what did you learn about cultural humility after participating in this workshop?
Well, for me, it's the fact that I have to practice it in order for it to become a habit. And you know what is said about habits, right? If you write the word H-A-B-I-T, habit, if you take off the H, you know what you have? You have a bit.
Right. I love it.
And if you take off the A, you have bit.
Uh-huh.
And if you take off the B, you have it.
I love it.
So habits, whereas, some folks believe that bad habits are harder to break than good habits. No, but a habit is a habit.
It is.
And we all don't know much about cultural humility, but once we are there, we love humanity, that's how we develop it.
That's beautiful. And I like that. I never saw that before, Dr. Lewis. I'm gonna use that in my next presentation. Remind me to raise your salary. Thank you. That's my aha moment, okay? I never saw that before. Never. Thank you. Anyone else? Some aha moments that you will take away from participating?
Well, I can tell you that I have been getting a lot of aha moments from this class I'm teaching. I mean, it's a lot of work, but some of the exposure that these students are providing for me, I'm learning a lot.
Yes.
And I'm finding out that they are a lot more committed to looking out for diversity than many people would think. That they're working with diverse populations. They're committed to seeing some of these students and people that they interact with doing well. And one of the questions I asked just recently is, what other occupations outside of education do you think that cultural competence would be appropriate? And I got some great, well, I mean, it can happen in every profession,
Right.
but there are some that it is far more meaningful, and law enforcement is one.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement, healthcare,
Right.
those are areas where you find that we need to understand the culture of the other person. I'll be humble enough to say, I didn't know that.
That's right.
Thanks for telling me.
Thank you. So true. And then the question is, how will you apply what you have learned about cultural humility in this workshop, in the education community, and in the larger community?
Mm-hmm.
What and you can only answer that question. It's a rhetorical question, but it's only you can do that. And it takes courage. And courage don't mean that you are that brave, but you charge forth in spite of your fear to make a positive difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as a teacher, in public speaking, I'm a professional speaker with the National Speakers Association in Temple, Arizona. But when I stand before a group of people, I mean, there's fear in my heart. And I've been preaching for over 40 years, but get on Facebook or Zoom, man, I mean, they're jitteries, man. I just got to go forth because I'm human. We have those types of insecurities. And I'm glad that I have them because I can depend on maybe a higher power other than myself. But and then the thing again, as I said, there's a plethora of information that we learned in this hour and 15 minutes, what have you. But it will be little or no transformation in your life until you internalize it and apply it and act upon it. And most likely that is the missing link. You have to act upon it. You have to not just hear it, you got to apply it and you got to do it. And it takes time. Believe me, you're not going to do it overnight. It takes ongoing learning. And all I did was just try to be a motivator. But motivation will last as long as you try to run through hell with a gasoline jacket on. It must be inspired within you. I can light the torch, but it will go out if it did not really become a part of what you want to make a change. So that's it, Dr. Lewis. That's the end of this presentation, and I really appreciate you. And Jennifer, I thank you. Thank you. And Laura Lee, I just thank all of you for being part. And thank you, Dr. Lewis, for even asking me to bring this here. This is something I have a passion for. This is, like I tell people, 2 of the most important days of your life. Do anybody know the 2 most important days of their life? I know you'll say the day you was born. Most people get that one right. But the second most important day of your life is the day you discover why, your purpose in being. Because your purpose and your why is intertwined. Because until you know your why, you will never know your who. And you got 7 billion people in this world will define you, and you will trip over 7 billion people. And if you don't know your who, you don't know your where. Because once you get there, you'll know your ride. And you're back on this here merry-go-round, and it's deja vu all over again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Reese, thank you so much for the presentation, always informative. Thank you, students, for sticking around. And this is our 5th week. We got 2 more weeks left to go after this week for class, and you guys are doing well. Just keep plugging along, and I'm always available for your questions. Take care.
And have a nice weekend. And Dr. Lewis, appreciate you all the time, and I celebrate you in the class. As students, thank you for participating. It was a joy teaching you, and I loved every moment of it. Peace out.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. You were fantastic. Thank you so much.
And love yourself and let the world watch. Peace out, everyone.
Yeah.